Looks like we're ready to begin. Well, welcome everyone to our first coffee and chat with me, I guess, Council Member Derek Leon Davis, and you know me as your District 6 Council Member. Uh, Lots changed in a short period of time. We are here with our first virtual meeting, and it's an exciting opportunity for us to get together and talk about things that are going on in District 6. Hopefully, some of the things that are going on are exciting as opposed to the morbid times that we're going through dealing with the pandemic. Um, as you see in front of you, one of the things that we wanted to make sure everyone kept front of mind was the general election that's coming up this November. And as you see on the screen, you'll see some key dates. And if you follow our Council District 6 information page, we'll be updating the information regarding polling locations and drop-off boxes and things of that nature as we get that information from our Board of Elections. Just as a reminder, if you haven't yet, please complete your census form. Please complete your census form. Please complete your census form. No, this is not a broken record. This is an important announcement that you must complete your census form. Every time that you do not, you cost us somewhere in the ballpark of $18,250. And so we need that resource, and you know, in this challenging day and time, that all resources that inure to the bottom line help our citizens immensely. It is historic in nature that Black and Brown people are counted less frequently than others. And our community is a community where we are a majority Black and Brown people. And so we need to make sure that we are prudent and contemplative about what we have to do and that we do it. So please complete your census form. I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment for us all to just reflect on the realities of the day. We have been in a state of emergency and crisis. As an African American man who grew up here in Prince George's County in the early 70s, we just took a trip down memory lane and remembering some good times. But, you know, there was a time when Prince George's County was in the throes of police brutality and things of that nature that are going on across this country. And we would be remiss if we didn't take a moment to reflect on some of the things that have occurred in prayer. And we ask that all of us pray for the family of Jacob Blake out in Wisconsin, as we remember the family of George Floyd and even all the way back to Freddie Gray in Baltimore City, much closer to home. You know, it's not a situation that we can take lightly. It's something that we really need to reflect upon and make sure that we represent ourselves well, but we also have high expectations of those who are supposed to protect and serve us. And so we just don't want to we don't want to let this moment pass without our reflection upon it. But on to things that we need to focus on today. It's been a time where we're not used to this. Look on the screen and I see the faces and I begin to get a tear in my eye, but a smile to my lip when I get to look up and see my team. We don't get to see each other that as frequently as we would like to. But let me go ahead and make sure, and I'll get them to wave as I introduce. Most of you already know, and if you haven't called the office in a while and received the beautiful voice of the always effervescent and always prepared to bring a smile to your face, Lene White. Wave to him, Lene. She is our administrative assistant extraordinaire, and we appreciate her. And also down, well, cat a corner on my screen, the great constituent services experts that we have amassed in our office, Miss Rita Lassiter, give him a wave, Rita, and Mr. Jeffrey Taylor. Jeffrey just made me laugh. We talked about, I think we were listening to some music, and I think it predated him by probably about 20 years. So I won't tell his date of birth, but but I have memories of the time when you were born, my friend, and also always ready for us to keep us all on time and on task, and making sure that everything, the trains move on time in District 6 is our great Chief of Staff, Ms. Nell Johnson. So that's the District 16. We are here to serve, and everyone knows that in every title in District 6, it's constituent services. So that's what it's all about. Everybody in our office does constituent services. And we pray that in this new virtual day that our service hasn't diminished at one bit, and that you have used all tools that you have at your disposal to reach us either by phone or by email, by smoke signal, but that would have been a time long ago, but it looks like it could come back. Nonetheless, without further delay and ado, I think that my announcements for the night are done, and what I want to do is allow us enough time as I sip my tea and turn the meeting over to Ms. Shonda Washington, who is our Chief of Public Affairs and Marketing for the Maryland National Park and Planning Commission, and her team. I think she will introduce her team, and then we'll dive right into it. I'm jealous because it looks like JJ has his tea already, so I'm going to sip mine. Sean, the show is yours. You got to unmute. Shonda has to unmute.
Goodness, I swear that mute button is going to be the death of me. But I'm drinking water, not tea and coffee. But thank you, Councilmember, for having us here. I really appreciate it. I do want to just give you a heads up that we have a few questions about elections and ballots. So just a reminder as we get through the end to go back and make sure that we try and get some answers to our participants who asked some very important questions about a very important time in our country coming up. So with that said, I am Shonda Washington, the Division Chief of Public Affairs and Marketing for the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Department of Parks and Recreation in the beautiful Prince George's County. With me tonight is two very important people who are going to share some updates with you about what's happening in our in District 6. The first one is Laura Connolly. She's our acting planning supervisor. She's here to help support, but the person who's really going to share tons of information for you tonight is Mr. Joseph Arce. He's going to give a quick presentation, and I'm going to hand the screen over to him to tell you all about what's happening.
Good evening. I first want to say thank you to Shonda, Councilman Davis and his team, Laura, and the planning team on this virtual meeting. This is my first time doing this, so we're all learning together. Before I get started on the projects, I want to say again, thank you to all of you who are attending this meeting. It's very unusual and stressful time, but it's encouraging to witness how you and your families and your communities have used our parks as safe spaces to reconnect and discover new things about yourselves and your communities. I'm the Central Area Park Planner for the county. Let me share my screen really quick. And so I'm the Central Area Park Planner for the county, responsible for all the parks from Lanham Severn Road all the way down to Route 4 Pennsylvania Avenue, and then over west to the District of Columbia boundary and east to the Patuxent River. So as you can see, District 6 is the largest district in the central area. It encompasses 59 parks, including 7 stream valleys, 4 community centers, miles and miles of trails, a ton of athletic fields, and last but not least, 2 regional parks, being Walker Mill Regional Park and Watkins Regional Park. So there are only 4 regional parks in the county, so it's definitely a pleasure to be working on the district that has 2 of them, Fairland in the north and Casca in the south. Regional parks are important because they're the largest developed parks in the county. Each park is over 200 acres, and this size allows them to offer unique amenities that can't be found in other parks in the county. So, which leads me to my first two projects, which are master park development plans. These are multi-year and intensive planning projects where the department collaborates with consultants and your community to develop plans that illustrate visions for future growth and management of parks, and outlines a coordinated approach for park enhancements, development, and conservation that's choreographed to take place over the next 20 to 25 years in a fiscally responsible manner. I understand 20 to 25 years seems like a lot, but when doing these plans, we have to be cognizant and always thinking about the future generations, about us, about our kids, about our grandkids, and potentially great-great-grandkids. So below is a typical scope of work for these plans. The existing conditions assessment and natural resources inventory are where we dive into how the parks are being used and functioning and start developing lists of opportunities and constraints. We then take this information and present this to residents and stakeholders where we start to make collaborative decisions based on the information from those two tasks. Together, we then work to create a vision for future development and a path forward with an implementation strategy. The Watkins Regional Park Master Plan was completed in 2019, but I want to use this to set precedents for the ongoing Walker Mill Regional Park Master Plan. Like I said earlier, we analyze what's working. So for Watkins, this analysis led us to develop quadrants that spoke to what's already there. This also gave us a new lens to interpret the park in a different way. When we held community meetings to develop principles to guide the rest of the planning process, which you can see below, these became, again, the driving points for the rest of the process. For example, we discovered that infrastructure is a huge barrier to development. The park as it is now is crowded and barely able to accommodate the use needed. So some of the major recommendations in the plan revolve around renovating, maintaining, and expanding facilities like restrooms, parking, and picnic areas to accommodate larger number of visitors as the county grows. We made sure that the plan highlighted all the amazing things that the park offers now, but also how it can improve to become more inclusive for all demographics and cultures. Where one of the biggest recommendations of the plan, before I skip forward, these are just some of the examples of our recommendations. We had the analysis done where teens and young adults were some of the missing demographics at the park. So we wanted to include features like bicycle skills courses, ropes courses, more executive picnic suites, but also build on what's already there with like the athletic facilities and the popular movies at the park.
Yeah.
And so for one of the biggest recommendations of the plan is to update and upgrade the existing Nature Center and Old Maryland Farm by moving them to the southern half of the park, where programming can utilize the resources of the farm fields and open space. The collective vision turned into the Watkins Discovery Center, where education and environmental learning can become a focus within this part of the county. These are a couple examples of facilities across the United States used as inspiration for what the Nature Center and Old Maryland Farm can become. These facilities would really challenge park users to think outside the box and encourage hands-on play and learning to create synergy between how we live, work, and interact with our natural environments. Now, going back to how all this would be possible, the last task of the master plan was to develop an implementation strategy. The Watkins Master Plan split all the recommendations into 3 phases that revolve around the Capital Improvement Program, the CIP, which is the county's budget. So each phase is about 6 to 7 years, again, totaling to 20 years. One of our first projects now, which is in phase 1, again, is infrastructure. We learned that water and utilities can barely accommodate anything that we're doing there now. So we're doing a feasibility study that studies where we need it and how we can bring more into the park. Now going to Walker Mill Regional Park. Again, this is the other regional park within the county, but it's the only regional park located inside the Beltway. It's 500 acres, but split by Walker Mill Road. At the south of the park, and many of you probably have already visited, was developed out of a planning process where development took place between 2010 up to now. We are completing a master plan for the north where we can create some synergy between the two and utilize the resources up there. So this is just a little visual timeline of how the southern part below Walker Mill Road has developed since 1980. So as you can see, it was primarily used for athletic fields with tennis courts and basketball courts. Then we started to build connections and make the park more accessible through trails and a community garden at the northern corner of the park. Then in 2010, the master plan was complete, and this is when we started to really invest and put money into funding development at the park. So which included the multi-use turf field, the playground, parking, and more connections into the neighborhoods adjacent. And now we have the skate park and Park Police substation. And so through the master plan, we really want to build on what's there and celebrate what's working. All this development couldn't have been done without you or your predecessors. So we really want to take that into account and make sure that we're highlighting all the amenities that are there now. So again, the Walker Mill Regional Park Master Plan will really focus on the northern half of the park. Some of the key components, we have hired a consultant, it's LSG. We went through a huge procurement process where we had to interview a few different candidates, a few different consultants to make sure that we had the right fit and to make sure that going forward, we could have an inclusive planning process. So some of the key components of the master plan are to make meaningful connections to the rich history and cultural heritage along Central Avenue Corridor. Because as some of you may know, Central Avenue Corridor is just right north of Walker Mill Park. Propose a plan for circulation within the park to accommodate vehicular, pedestrian, and bicycle traffic. Explore potential for a new park police facility. Envision an adaptive reuse of the Concord Historic Site. Now, Concord Historic Site, some of you may not know, is on the northern half. This is a historic site that's underutilized, but is definitely needed within our park system. We want to reuse the facilities so that the communities can learn about the history and reinterpret what is there. And then recommend a signature event. We understand that Juneteenth was the signature event at the park previously, and it moved to Watkins Regional Park. But we know the potential of Walker Mill. We know the potential with the community. We know that you want to work with us to create something memorable for your communities. So that's a huge component of this master plan. And then also identify if this location can meet some sort of outdoor aquatic space and dog park. And then finally, identify opportunities for integrating public art. So going back to the scope of work, this process started last November. We are currently going through task A and B, the existing condition assessment and natural resources inventory. We're still learning and still doing our due diligence to see what the opportunities and constraints are. And we're paralleling that with the work for public engagement, including this copy in chat. So we are doing a full virtual public engagement process where we have pre-recorded videos and times where we can have virtual meetings with a consultant and the planning team to develop recommendations and implementation strategies going forward. So like I said, the public engagement will be housed all virtually. We do have a website and we do have a survey that we would like everyone to take. So right now we have 50, I think around 50 to 60 responses, but we want up to 300, 400 responses. We need your help to make this plan work, but we also need your help to make this park what you want to see for your kids and again, future generations. We will have links to the project pages and the surveys after the meeting. And then now going a little north of Walker Mill to the Central Avenue Connector Trail. This is one of a kind for the county that will serve both DC and Prince George's County. It's a 6.5 mile trail that again will connect DC to Largo along the Central Avenue, along 214 Central Avenue. So this is a map of the alignment. As you can see, it does cross. I'm not sure if anyone can see my cursor, but there is a piece that crosses Capitol Beltway 495. This is an alignment. This is a working document. Nothing is final, but we are working towards creating this vision and for the use of county residents. Right now, we are at phase 1, right here, that revolves around Addison Metro Station. Again, this trail will span from Capitol Heights Metro Station and hit 3 others east, including Addison, Morgan Boulevard, and Largo Town Center. Plus a number of other destinations like the Marvin Gaye Trail in DC, the Chesapeake Beach Rail Trail, FedEx Field, Largo Town Center, libraries, schools, name it all. Again, this is one of a kind for our county and something that we're really excited to get going. So as for trail design, this will function as a park trail. So it will be maintained by the Department of Parks and Recreation, where segments will parallel roadways and function as a shared use side path, cycle track, or bike lane. There will be signage, interpretive elements, trail furniture, fitness stations, and safety features to comfort anyone who's using the trail. We won't get into the 4 facility types. These are basically the types of trail that we'll be using along the Central Avenue Connector Trail. So these colors represent the different types. For example, the green is within a natural area. Yellow is going to be mainly paved and use existing facilities there, and so forth. So this is a huge partnership with other agencies within the county, like WMATA, like DPW&T, State Highway, and so on. This is a very intensive planning project where we will start having community meetings with you all to really dive deeper into what you want to see and how to make it more comfortable. And the last project, going way south in the central area, is Westphalia Central Park. This is a future regional park, or close to a future regional park, which will be about 126 acres. But this is a partnership with developers for Westphalia Town Center. This is a phased implementation tied to the number of approved building permits with the developer, where phase 1 is 50 acres. Phase 1 is 50 acres, everything within the yellow and red. But that also splits off into sub-phases. Sorry, I think I'm a little frozen. Oh, there you go. So going back to implementing and developing and constructing this park, again, is dependent on building permits. So for every building permit, there's a milestone. For example, the park master plan for phase 1 was developed in 2014 when we first got the first residential SDP. We are currently between 1,000 and 1,400 building permits. And at 1,600 building permits, we will be complete with phase 1. Construction will be complete with phase 1.
Wow.
And so, like I said earlier, Westphalia Central Park is a phased project. This is phase 1, but split up into sub-phases. If you have visited the park, you see everything is just dirt. It's part of the process. We'll get to the nice stuff once we start really developing it. So rough grading was completed in fall 2019 as part of the parkside development, and phase B, which is 18 acres within the red, will be complete by the 1,600th building permit. This includes a pond, parking, accessible roads for pedestrians and bikes, plaza with a signature cloud structure, restrooms, performance lawn, and picnic shelters, and a volleyball court. So again, this is an ongoing project. So unfortunately, that's all the time for the projects that I have right now. But if you have any questions about any of them, this is my contact information. Please feel free to contact me. And then below is Ed Wheeling, who is the Central Area Park Maintenance Superintendent. We work right next, well, not literally right next to each other, but we work hand in hand to make sure that the parks are safe and usable for all the residents in Prince George's County. And so I'll hand it off to either Shondo or Councilman Davis.
I think I get to jump in for a hot second there. JJ, great job. JJ's last name is pronounced RC, RC like the cola. And so if you have to call him, you can always get great information from JJ with regard to the process and the progress of our park system. I was just briefly kind of looking through some of the chat information, and someone said something with regard to Watkins being crowded. You know, quite honestly, I think crowded is part of the success of our park system. And fortunately, in District 6, the heart of the county, who will also be the host of the Regional Medical Center come next year. You know, our luxury is our gift and it is our curse. I mean, we are the heart of the county. And so we have 2 regional parks in the county. 2 of our parks that we get to call host, that we're hosting are regional parks for everybody. I mean, that's an exciting opportunity. And Walker Mill is budding and coming along. And I think if you saw through JJ's presentation, that timeline just kind of brings to bear the reality of the process and how long it takes. I think he went back to 1980 and showed you dirt. Brought you all the way up to today, where he shows you fields and dream. What's the dream playland area, which is just beautiful. Our tennis courts, our basketball courts. Someone asked a question about the amenities of sorts for pets, and saying that there may be a little bit different amenities for pets from the perspective of Walker Mill and Watkins. I would submit to you that they're probably a little different at every one of the parks, and probably in some phase of development moving in the direction of what best suits the needs of the community. So if in fact there is a specific desire or a specific need around pet-friendly park, I think we could probably make sure that JJ and Shonda's team, they're aware of it. Maybe it's something that we can consider adding in the future. The other and the last thing I'll say before I toss back to Shonda, I believe is where I go next, is kind of twofold. When you look down at Central Avenue Connection Trail, we often talk about the things that happen regionally, and in the Washington metropolitan region, as we call it affectionately, the DMV. Many of you have seen these trails where folks bike and walk, and you have multimodal things happening. You have metro, and you have rail, overground rail. Specifically in Northern Virginia, you see a lot of that. But I believe that we have an opportunity with the Central Avenue Connection Trail to build a worldwide attraction that will connect the Inner Beltway to Largo, and the District of Columbia to Prince George's County, and ultimately be the envy of the DMV. And we're in the beginning of a great planning process. Things like this that we aspire to do, we enter into as partnerships, and they're not novel expenditures. They are expensive undertakings, and they take time. And it's going to require that everyone who participates on these types of events grabs the fever and run with that fever over that period of time. Me as your elected representative, what I try to do in the short period of time that you give me to do it is plant the seed deeply and water it well, so that it grows into the kind of bountiful harvest that we as Prince Georgians so desire. But our terms are limited, and what you don't want to do is not understand the projects and then essentially allow them to wither and die, or to be uprooted. And so I often hail my predecessors, and I think JJ might have mentioned that in his presentation. My predecessors before me nurtured projects for many years to get us to where we are. And, we are the stewards of it for now. And we're hoping that our community will embrace and continue to make flourishes with regard to these projects. So the Central Avenue Connection Trail is one of those. Finishing the northern side of Walker Mill Regional is another. And one of the pieces that I wanted to make sure we stayed focused on was, when we envisioned Walker Mill Regional Park, we envisioned the Juneteenth celebration being one of the anchor realities of Walker Mill Regional Park. And I think we even had some as of late discussions around the possibility and the plausibility of partnering with maybe the Negro Leagues, with that beautiful baseball diamond that we have over there and that beautiful field area. It's no reason that, forward thinking and ideas can start to germinate that creates a recreation of sorts of the times that were great in Prince George's County and across and up and down the East Coast, where you had those Negro League teams barnstorming. So we had an event not too long ago. I believe it was at the Public Playhouse, and I was almost brought to tears with the tales of the Negro Leagues. And one of the, believe me, if you missed the player who presented from the Negro Leagues, one of the last players that's still barnstorming and talking about it, you missed something. I can't recall his name. Maybe Lene or Rita do, but he was something to behold. He was full of energy, and he talk about taking a trip down memory lane. Nonetheless, we have a great opportunity in District 6 to do that. And then finally, Westphalia Central Park, we are at the seeding phase. We are just beginning. I think dirt may be being dragged around from place to place to figure out where we are, but not much more at this point in time. But believe me, that is something that collectively will be another great opportunity. Just a little bit smaller than Watkins and Walker Mill Regional, but nonetheless mighty. And so with that, let me turn back to Shonda, and so she can take us to the next phase of our few minutes. I probably talked more than I was supposed to.
Thank you, Councilmember. No, you didn't talk more than you were supposed to. You said some good stuff. I do want to go through the chat, though, just to make sure we catch some of the questions that came up. Some unrelated to Parks and Recreation, but still very important. There was one in particular from Miss Simone Smith, where she asked, JJ, I think maybe you can help her answer. How do you fill out the form? I think it's the form you referenced.
So what I can do is I can send a link in the chat. I think that everyone has access to it. But it's just a survey that the planning team and the consultant came up with to start collecting your desires and your needs. But again, it's the online web source. So on Open Town Hall, which is the platform we use for our surveys.
JJ and Shonda, is this something that we could also add to the District 6 Weekly Reader and push out to our citizens as we communicate with them every other week?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, we're on it.
Great. Then just to catching a couple of other questions, let me go through real fast to see. I think you touched on the majority.
Yep.
Councilmember, in the chat, we also asked people to kind of share a couple things about their favorite park, some of the amenities they want to see. There was a question came up about skate park for skateboards, and just want to let the resident know that that park, I believe, is not, there's no definite in terms of what type of skating you can do. So the skate methodology is up to the user.
Right.
The other question, as you said about the pet amenities, yes, we'll be adding some of those. I think somebody else also asked about water amenities. If there are other parks in the county maybe connected to water. So there's Jug Bay, Bladensburg Waterfront Park, Woodrow Wilson Bridge at the Potomac Waterfront Park, and then some other natural resources in the county. A couple other questions that were related to exercise stations. So JJ or Laura, I'm not sure, you can weigh in on that. A lot of residents ask, could exercise stations be placed in the parks? I think largely because they can't go into the facilities. You know, would it be possible to have pull-up bars and things like that?
Sure, yeah, so that's a request we get all the time. I mean, especially now that everyone is kind of forced to be outside, they want more exercise stations, more trails to accommodate that kind of physical activity. If there's a specific park that you would like to see it at, please contact me and we can start working on how we can make that possible. It'll obviously have to go through budgeting and see how long that would take, but please contact me.
The park that was referenced was Westphalia. The mom, she, loves the park, and I'd love to hear that too. As a mom, I totally agree with her. But sometimes we need some things for outdoor things for the adults. So she was the one that made that request. So is Westphalia. Another couple questions were, I'm just checking through the chat. Will we get adult swimming at Watkins Park?
Ooh.
At Watkins? No, unfortunately, adult swimming, an aquatic facility besides
Sark.
Yeah, at Sark, will only accommodate that. The plan for Walker Mill, in one of our other functional plans, county functional plans, they identified Walker Mill possibly having a aquatic facility. This doesn't mean that we'll get lap lanes or a huge pool. We're still trying to determine what that would look like. But if you have any recommendations on what you would like to see over there, again, contact me. It's part of the process. It's part of what we're studying. Yeah.
Remember, if you look, and we're fortunate, we house 2 of the county's regional parks. You know, you have Casca in the south, I believe, Fairland in the north. We have some new multi-gen centers that have come online down at Sark, just recently came online. I think it's some enhancements going for ice hockey stuff or ice skating. I'm not positive what the technical terminology would be there, but down at Henson Creek, didn't we just replace, it burned down, we replaced the rink and added a rink or something like that, didn't we?
Yes, that is the plan.
That's the plan there. And so essentially what I'm describing is that it's a network. You know, while we are District 6 specific, the county's plan is countywide. And the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission is a bi-county commission. So it's us in Montgomery County, but from the perspective of parks, they have their responsibility, we have our responsibility, but we always win the gold medals. I said all that to get to that part about Prince George's County always winning the gold medals, which is important because that amenity, and it's why I really say to constituents to stay involved in these processes, because it was constituents from the very beginning who began to germinate these ideas, not us council members, really. I mean, really, and I say homage to my really good friends who actually helped raise me in central Prince George's County. People like Freddie Dawkins, you know, people like Doug Edwards, folks, you know, our honorable Senator recently deceased Ulysses Curry, my good friend and former council member Sam Dean, who worked feverishly over the last 20, 30 years to get us to where we are with regard to the parks in the central area of Prince George's County. And I'm saying to this new cast that it's important and critical for you to stay involved, maintain your involvement, because that's how the Westphalia Park becomes the best bang for the buck that you could possibly get from a public-private partnership type of idea. When you heard Shonda talk about, or maybe it was JJ, talk about this one is developer funded with also some resources that we have committed. This is a great opportunity for the Nexus. When you talk about the Central Avenue Connector Trail, I get real excited. You know, as a kid growing up in Capitol Heights, who, when the Metro showed up, got a chance to walk to the Metro station and explored the District of Columbia and see my first Chinese karate film down at L'Enfant Plaza because the Metro had come. You know, I think about those opportunities for kids that come behind me. As you can see, I'm getting a little long in the tooth here with all this gray hair that COVID has brought out. But nonetheless, you know, these are the things that we have to build. And someone in the chat said, you know, even with not reelected, we can stay active. Believe me, there are not council members alive who still live in Prince George's County who aren't active in some way, shape, form, or fashion behind the scenes and a lot of times in front of the scene. So yeah, we plan to remain active, but you know, again, we are a voice. You are the voice. And that's why your activity around this is critical and important. So these concepts that we put forth are ones that we really want you to focus on if you are a District 6er, so that ultimately your grandkids and their grandkids will have great opportunities to flourish here in Prince George's.
Thank you, Councilmember. A couple more things. A resident asked, how can they schedule an appointment with you? I'll allow your team, I think your team will.
I see him, yeah, and Rita, Nell, Lene, they'll jump on top of that.
Yeah, exactly. And then there was one question about bike rentals. JJ, I'm not sure if you can weigh in on that. If not, then we can reach out to the.
So I didn't really see the question. Shonda, is there more to that?
No, it just said also bike
rentals.
rentals.
So that is something that we are actively looking to do.
Yeah.
We want to make sure
bike
that
rentals. We do have bike rentals at Bladensburg Waterfront Park.
And I know that ultimately along that Central Avenue connector trail, the idea, especially around our WMATA stations, you know, they're creating the same type of opportunities that you see in the urban areas with the multimodal and micro transit opportunities. Now, watch what you ask for, folks, because once you get bikes, then people want scooters, and then people want those little things, I call them the Honda kick and goes. I'm really dating myself when I say that. You know the little thing, where you remember that, Chana? You remember the kick and go where you had that little, you kick that wheel, and but now they have their motorized. And,
yes.
And those scooters are causing folks nightmares, and some people are just loving them. So the reality is that as we begin to create these new multimodal transit realities, you will start to see these kinds of things occur. I believe that there is also already in Largo, somewhere near the county administration, the new county administration building, a plot and plan for the scooters or the bicycles as well. So we're working towards those realities collectively and actively, and they're not just park plans. These are also economic development reality plans. So as our economy starts to evolve from what people used to see as a sleepy little bedroom town into areas where we have, suburban living, where your houses are a little bit further apart, to where we have more urban realities, and then the conflux of suburban and urban, that's what I call Westphalia. It's kind of like the conflux of urban and suburban coming together right along Pennsylvania Avenue, but even more so around our metro stations. You're going to start to see those realities start to germinate.
Thank you, Councilmember. Okay, so a couple more things that came in are related to JJ. Just a follow-up question. You mentioned a park police substation was added in 2019 to Walker Mill Park. Where is the substation? It's next to the parking lot.
Yes, it's on the southern portion of Walker Mill, right below Walker Mill Drive. And next to the overflow parking for the fields. It's a small substation that will also house police dog training and a few park police officers to serve this area. I understand that this was a request for a facility of that type, but actually even bigger, but a facility that can accommodate park police for safety and just to have an overall Parks Department presence at the park. So with the Walker Mill master plan, we are trying to see how we can improve that structure on the north side, but also if the facility can function together with other divisions within the department.
Shonda, I see one down here from a Mr. Turman down in Winterset, which is off of Ritchie Marlboro. Sounds like that might be a HOA trail. I'm not positive, but I'm not familiar with a parking planning trail specific to. That's off of Brown Road, Brown Station.
Station Road?
Down further, yeah, down a little bit further. Winterset before, I think it's right beyond Marlboro Ridge to the left or something like that. If I'm in my mind driving down Ritchie Marlboro.
Possibly, it's possible, but what I can do is I'll give my email to Mr. Turner to give me an address, to send me an address, and we can find out if it's ours or not.
Yeah.
And if it isn't, then we can help him, locate the best way to get the issue addressed.
Perfect. And don't forget to complete your census. Did I say that? I usually say it 3 times. Don't forget to complete your census. Don't forget to complete your census. And tell a friend.
Exactly. I'm with you on that one, Councilmember. So we are at 7:22, and I do want to go back to those election questions that came up that I'm hoping maybe you can help answer, or we can, try and direct them in the right way. The first one was, are there any regulations around selecting an individual to drop off ballots at the Board of Elections?
So not to my knowledge, you complete your absentee ballot or your mail-in ballot, same thing. Once you get it, you make sure you sign it. And then if you're putting it in the US mail, make sure you put your stamp on it. And if you're putting it in a drop box, and we're waiting to hear where the drop box locations will be for sure. I am not assuming that all of the drop box locations will just be at the places that they were during the primary. I am awaiting direction from the board, our local Board of Elections, with the addresses for the drop boxes, at which point in time we will publish again through our Weekend Reader and through our web and our Facebook post. So stay tuned for that. If you haven't joined our listserv for the Weekend Reader, make sure you do. I believe Rita has already put that link in the chat box over there. I think it's Council District 6 or District 6 office. Nonetheless, it should be in the chat box over here, and so that you get those updates. As soon as we have those official locations, I will publish them, and I am not presuming that they will be just the ones that were used for the primary. So yeah, no, anybody can drop it in that box once you've done what you're supposed to do with it.
Good. That's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
There was another, I think there was one more election question, or maybe not. The regulations, you answered. Checking. I think you're good then.
Okay. And if you have them, keep, stay locked into our Facebook page. What is it? District 6 Councilmember Derek Leon Davis. And also to our Weekend Reader. We try to make sure that we publish the information once it becomes facts. We've had a few folks jump the gun and publish information that changed. And so we prefer to be right then early. Right,
exactly. Mm-hmm. I'm with you on that, Councilmember. You want to give false hope to people.
Right. Don't be discouraged by all of the cacophony and muted sounds that's out there in the ether. You know what you have to do. There will be what we call super sites open. Early vote will occur. Those dates were published. That is what the plan is. And once we know what the sites are, expect that we will publish them ad nauseum. And along with the rules. I mean, I think that will become a feature that you see, in our Weekend Reader, probably will earn its own little box somewhere that says, this is how you vote. But we're not telling you who to vote for. That's not how we approach this from the perspective of the job of a council member. I'm your public servant as a council member, and you don't hear me telling you who to vote for and why to vote for them. You try to hear me give you information on, to best serve our community.
That's right, Councilmember. Totally agree with you on that. And in fact, I'm a public servant right along with you. And the right to vote is a right that we all have. And as public servants, I believe it's our job to protect that and ensure that our residents have access to that public right. So totally with you. One of the questions that came up is it okay for an organization to offer ballot drop-offs? I don't know.
I would punt that to the Board of Elections appropriately. And what we could do is I have staff grab the information just to make sure we give you the right contact for the Board of Elections. Because once you start to move into organizational pieces, it's either a conversation about the process or whether or not it becomes a political process. And if it becomes a political part of a process, then that, there's another office that would handle that. The Maryland State Board of Elections drafts those types of laws that regulate how the political part of the process works. Our local elections office handles the logistics for conducting these types of elections in the county.
Awesome. Alrighty, that's about it. We're at 7:28.
All right.
Any last minute thoughts or anything additionally you'd like for me to share?
We are only 20 minutes overtime, right? But who's counting? What I like
meeting with.
Look, I love it, and it looks like if I'm looking, I didn't see the participant count, but nonetheless, for our maiden voyage, I think that we had great participation. I think we had great questions. I think that we ultimately had, Henrietta just asked a question about the parks during the pandemic and safety. If Chandra, you wanted to just briefly say something about that might be helpful. We want you to use the parks. We want you to be responsible. We want folks to remember to keep their distance. We want people to remember that if you are not at distance, to keep your mask, to make sure that you are masked. And ultimately, if you come in contact with someone who you know has COVID, get a test. We have opportunities for testing throughout the county. And so, from the perspective of trying to keep each other safe, put on your mask, keep your distance. And if you think you might have contacted it, get a test. Because if you test positive, you need to quarantine. That's how we stop spread. As we stop spread and as that rate of spread goes down, we can get closer to what we used to call normal. I don't think we'll ever be normal again. There's a new normal coming. You want children to be able to participate in socially in school. We're going to have to keep our rate down. It's just that simple, because children can catch and will spread. I tell people quite often, I remember my days in the public school system when I worked for Head Start back in the early 90s. And ultimately, it was a time of my life where I caught everything early. And after about a year in the Head Start world, I never caught a cold again. Why? Because the kids had already given me all the immunity that I needed. COVID-19 isn't working that way. We don't know what COVID-19 is doing. If that super bug starts to spread and that germ starts to go, it has already shown us that it will disproportionately kill Black and brown people, period. We know that. And so we have to be prudent. We have to be vigilant. We have to be mindful. And we have to think about one another before we think about ourselves. So, from my perspective, if Chandra, you wanted to grab some about with the specifics to the parks.
Absolutely. So with specifics to the park, so the thing that's good that I do want to share is, when we had to close our doors, this was kind of out of the ordinary for us, because what we do really well is face-to-face interaction, like engagement with our residents and our patrons. So, but what we decided, unlike a lot of people initially, was we left our parks and trails open because we wanted to make sure that people had somewhere that they can go. Not everybody has a backyard. Not everybody even has a front yard. And so it was important to us that our residents still had a place where they can get out, they can get some activity. And frankly, with the way COVID did, it kind of stressed people out. So this gave them a way to kind of go out and kind of relax and breathe. Basically, what we're offering in the parks right now is you can bike, you can trail, you can take the trails, you can walk. We have our playgrounds open. We have, we've opened our comfort stations and bathrooms in some parks as well, because there was the need. And we also have other amenities like our tennis courts, outdoor tennis courts are open, the tennis bubbles are open. We also have the pools are still opening, and there should be some news coming out soon about what happens with them after Labor Day. And then the Bladensburg Waterfront Park and Patuxent River Park, for those who are interested in the waterfront activities, those are open as well. We're looking at how we can do more virtual. We saw a lot of success with our summer clubhouses. And I know some people probably are like, ooh, virtual, enough with the screens. But the reality is we can only stop the spread if we stay away from each other, which is something hard to do. That's hard to do, but that's the reality. And so we're looking at more virtual activities, and we launched Technique Tuesday with our youth and countywide sports division, in which they are going to provide, quick techniques to help kids stay in touch with their sports skills and stay on top of it, especially since the fall sports season for our young people has been canceled. So we're doing things, we're trying to think innovatively, we're trying to think of ways to make sure that we engage with our community. And we just want to make sure we continue to do our part to stop the spread of this ridiculous virus.
Absolutely. And you all can help us. Like we said, mask, keep your distance, and test if you think you're sick. Those are the generals. Stay outside. As you go outside, remember the rules and apply them. We want you to utilize the amenities that we have. And I'll tell you, as I sit on Zoom, WebEx, GoToMeeting, Skype, something else, I don't know, like 63 virtual platforms, it seems like all day. I look out my window often, and I see my neighbors participating in cardiovascular exercise, and oh, how jealous I get. So ultimately, and I think I've already put on the COVID spread, this 7 pounds that, anyway, I won't go into that. I'm going to have to find a way to shake soon. But nonetheless, it's an important thing, and I'm not going to belabor it. I did want to say that we're still excited, and I'll say this publicly, and most of the people on here who know me in District 6 know that I am a music guy, and ultimately, my support for like the Foundation for the Advancement of Music and Education, FAME, and our Lake Arbor Jazz Festival that we've supported for the duration of the time that I've been in office. And if you all remember, anyone who has ever heard me talk about Westphalia, you've always heard me lament about the fact that I thought that Prince George's County should be the home to an amphitheater that would rival not Fort DuPont, excuse me, but Wolf Trap or Meriwether Post Pavilion. Ultimately, I think that concept is continuing to move through processes. I think I'm starting to understand from the perspective of economic viability that I may not be able to get the Taj Mahal in Prince George's County, which I would call Meriwether Post or Wolf Trap, because the economics just might not make sense. But we're going to get something great. I think we still have the opportunity for that to occur. And I know that the conversation is starting to move through processes. So I want my District Sixers to continue to remain vigilant. I'm not sure where the best place is going to be. But this is a cry to my District Sixers again. When it was time for the hospital to come to Prince George's County, and we were looking at the regional medical center, and as we were going through that process, we said to Prince George's County, the best place for the heart is Center Mass. They didn't mess up with the body. So we put our regional medical center right smack in the heart of Prince George's County, right on the main arteries and veins called Central Avenue, 202, the Central Beltway, the Capital Beltway, and Largo Town Center Metro, and we put our heart right there. I'm hoping that we put the music that's in our head somewhere in a similar like location, if not Westphalia, maybe Largo, if not Largo, maybe part of our somewhere, towards central Prince George's County. That makes a lot of sense. But I think we should keep punching for that amphitheater concept. D6ers.
All righty, council member. I have one last, I just want to check on it, and then I think we're going to roll out. The question was, and maybe Laura or JJ will help answer. Is the field on or across from Enterprise Room, across from the street from FBCG? I'm not sure what FBCG.
First Baptist Church of Glenarden.
Yes, thank you. Is it part of Watkins Park?
Largo Kettering, Mitchellville Boys and Girls Club has the Chelsea house back there. Isn't that right, JJ? Isn't that what they're talking about?
Yeah, if you're talking about Largo Kettering, Perrywood Community Center, then yes, it's actually part of Walker Mill. And it is part of the plan to really bring that piece and make it more accessible from Watkins. From Watkins Regional Park. Through like trail connections, pedestrian and bicycle connections. But yes, the fields are part of the park.
Yep, all part of Watkins. And the house back there is the clubhouse that Largo, Kettering, Mitchellville Boys and Girls Club uses for some of its activity. But I think we still got to get water back in there, don't we? Or something. I remember conversation about attempting to drag water lines through the infrastructure.
Water and sewer lines.
I think someone said it earlier, talked about infrastructure and how important infrastructure was with regard to parklands. So that's one of the challenges. And believe us when we tell you it ain't cheap. The reality is it isn't cheap, and that's not a complaint. It's just a fact. It's one of those things, especially in District 6. I've always in my life been a straight shooter. I tell you oftentimes when your ideas cost more than we can afford, and I'll tell you often, that we have to change how we operate. You heard me get beat about the head when I talked about our tax structure. We took the slings and arrows for a bit of time, but the reality is that from the perspective of what we say we want as a county, one, especially with regard to education, and two, what we are learning about our realities now because of COVID-19. We're gonna have to make some real tough decisions in the very near future, and it's gonna be all about quality of life. And so, this is another level of discussion that over the next couple of years I will continue to have with you. And with that, Chandra, I'm good to go. I want to thank everyone who joined this evening. I want you to continue to dialogue. I think you have the opportunity, and I think we can capture some of the chats. And if there are questions that we missed, I'm certain we will try to answer. I encourage you to join us at Council District 6 to make sure that you are getting frequent web updates from us and part of our weekend reader process. I'm going to say to you to complete your census. And then I'm going to say to you, vote. Those two things are critical. And I'm going to also encourage you, because we are the heart of Prince George's County, to continue to pray for those throughout this country, throughout our state and in our county, and pray for each other, safe passage, even in this virtual land. We are going to go to work on reforming our public safety entities, and I think a lot of that is already happening. And I'm going to encourage you all to always, as I say to folks when I would come out with the police chief in your community, if you see something going on, say something. Turn on your lights at night because crime doesn't like light, period. That's how we keep each other in mind. It's a very minimal and nominal cost, but if you keep your lights on the outside of your house at night, typically crime runs to find a dark corner to do its bidding. And so with that, I'm good to go. Thanks my team, Nell, yay, Rita, yay, Lene, yay, Jeffrey, yay, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning, JJ and Chanda, and the rest of the squad. Chanda, anybody else you need to thank?
Laura.
Laura, that's
Ayana.
it.
Yep.
Thank
and
you, Laura.
Ayana, who's helping me.
Thanks again, Ayana. Who else we got?
That's it. I think that's it. I think you
All
got
right.
everybody.
So this is where now it's time to say goodbye
Yep.
to all our company. I'm not even gonna do it. I'm not
Do it, Councilman. They're not ready for it, Councilman.
They not ready. They not ready. Don't get them started. Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, and have a great night.
God bless.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.